All right.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Episode 3, Mind Matter. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell for future updates.
Leave a
And
comment. Let us know any topics you'd like us to cover or
pretty much, and also hit the like button just to, for it's free, whatever. Just do it. Even if you hated it, just hit the like button, whatever. Out of frustration, just hit it like 6 times. All right, so what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about 3 things that you should ask yourself before you enroll and pay for university.
Alrighty. Why don't you get started with that then? You can do the first one.
Sure. All right. Number 1 thing. What is your motivation? So, is this something that you want to do? Is this something that your parents would like you to do?
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that your parents would like you to do, can you see that long term it's probably good for you? Why do you want to go to university?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the hardest question for people to answer.
Absolutely. Like, motivation. Like, most people don't even know what motivation would be. Like, most people, motivation to them is like, oh, I'm not motivated. I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't see motivation as a long-term thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
really hard to like pinpoint why you do certain things. I think a lot of it has to do with if you're influenced by people you like, you tend to sort of steer in that direction, which is why a lot of people do go to university in the field that maybe their parents sort of kind of hyped up as they were growing up, or
Yeah.
somebody close to them, some adult that hyped it up for them.
So if you're interested in a longer conversation about university, check out podcast number 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really dived into the topic there. But just in case you haven't watched that, we talked a lot about how it's sort of baked into Western culture that university is the best thing that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody should go to university.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a lot about why that is and isn't true, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we established that not everyone should go to university.
Yeah, and then a lot of that has to do with the motivation.
Yeah,
towards it, and we talked about money, and we won't dive into it too much here.
Yeah,
we'll just link it. It's in the description if you want to watch that whole thing. It's our first video. Link in the description. Yeah. So the reason I think that it's pretty dangerous to not know what your motivations are is because maybe for people that age, we are assuming most of these people going to university are coming straight out of high school. They're sort of being kind of pushed in that direction by their parents, which can be a good thing because, like you sort of alluded to, it might be the best thing for you, according to your parents, because it's a safe bet. Like it's a high demand job, or it's a high paying career, or there's potential in it. But my thing is that it doesn't matter how much it pays and how good it is for someone if it's not good for you. If it's not the right fit for you, you're not going to do it. You're not going to feel good about it.
And let's be honest, if you're looking for financial stability, if you push yourself into a high-paying career that you hate, you're going to probably find most of your joy in life in spending all the money that you're making.
Yeah.
And that's not financially stable.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
At the end of the day, the doctor with the Lamborghini might actually be in a similar financial place as the mechanic with the Ford F-150.
Yeah. So, on that note, then, what steps does someone need to take to figure out what their motivation is? What would you recommend?
Oh man, it's a tough one, but you need to dive in. You need to dive in and decide what your ideal life really is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a cliche, but what are your dreams? And you have to look on that on a bit of a broader scale. So this let's sort of hit on one of our other topics here, or one of our other questions, because we're sort of building into it really nicely here, is what is your ideal lifestyle, and does university fit your ideal lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so uh, let's just break down life into sort of three pillars. You know, everybody has their career, everybody has their family and friends, and everybody has their oh, what was I going to say? Career, family and friends, and oh, I lost it. What would be the third pillar? Maybe there's
Probably
only two.
career, family, and
Recreation,
friends, and
recreation.
I would say probably like personal goals, personal hobbies, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and everybody values each pillar differently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you if you don't want to work 70 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
don't put yourself in a situation where you've paid so much money for university that your only option is to work 70 hours a week to pay it off, right? Like it's probably the most difficult thing that you have to do when you're 17, 18, 19, early 20s, is you need to establish what's important to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to look outside of sometimes what your parents think is important to you, sometimes what the culture thinks is important to you, and really just be okay with establishing what's actually important to you outside of all of those external pressures.
Right.
Some people, it's not going to be important to them to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, it's going to be important to them to raise some spectacular children,
Mm-hmm.
to be home, to take their children to do things, to have time to spend with their family. Some people, the most important thing is going to be seeing the world. They want to travel. They want to explore. They want to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Like sometimes the culture, or your parents or your family, they only give you a couple options, but there's so many options,
And
and you can have anything that you're willing to put your mind to.
and on that note, that the motivations change as you grow older.
Yeah.
So you mentioned motivations of people at different levels in their lives. So like if you're 17, odds are you're probably more on the line of, what career do I want? I want to travel somewhere. If you're maybe our age or older, mid 20s, 30s, then we're talking about, okay, maybe I need to start looking at other purposes such as family, depending on where you're at in your life. Um, so yeah, it is a difficult thing, and I think what the best thing you can do as a 17-year-old or as somebody looking to go into university, regardless of your age, is at that moment in time when you're entering the schooling, where are you at? What are your motivations? Why are you
Yeah.
choosing to go here? Which is sort of moving on to the next point. Uh, does this fit your ideal lifestyle?
Yeah.
Right?
So once you've established, I guess maybe let's go by analogy
Okay.
here, or not even analogy, by my own experience. So when I was in early university, even late high school, I knew that I was interested in a career that would provide me with I wanted to make a lot of money. I was
Mm-hmm.
interested in making a lot of money, and I was interested in doing something that I was interested in doing something prestigious. You know, I
Okay.
wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor or a politician or something in big business. I don't really know why.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a driver for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I could have looked at it. I did look at it for a time and say, well, I know that money doesn't buy happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I know that your career isn't everything. I know that there's other things that are more important And so I shouldn't listen to myself. I should listen to what society's telling me. And then I got kind of bored
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that I still wanted those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to convince myself that they weren't important.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when I really embraced that they were important, because they were important to me, that I got a huge kick in motivation, got a huge kick in drive, and everything became so much more interesting, so much, I had like a purpose, something I was working towards, something that I really wanted. So I wanted to be a lawyer since I was in like grade 11. I took grade 12 law in grade 11, and I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I sort of hit this point, well, maybe that's too hard. Maybe I only want to do that for the money,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I'm going to shy away. And then I sort of hit that point where I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to listen to myself. I know these things are important to me. I don't even have to figure out why they're important to me. They just are. They're really, really important to me. So I'm going to go become a lawyer. And then, of course, well, I have to go to university to do that because that's the career path, right? But maybe you wanted to be in business, and then you say, well, sure, you can get a business degree, but you can also start your own business. You don't need to go to university. So what kind of business do you want to do? Like, do you want to be in finance or something where, big investment firms are picking people out of business school, and so kind of going to university is kind of your ticket in?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to be an entrepreneur and start something on your own? I mean, sure, you're going to learn some skills in university that might help you become an entrepreneur, but it's a high price to pay for some skills that you can learn on YouTube.
Or just by going and working for someone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a matter of deciding, deciding what your ideal lifestyle is,
Mm-hmm.
what your ideal life is, what things are important to you,
Mm-hmm.
owning the things that are important to you,
Mm-hmm.
and then deciding whether or not university is the best way to work towards those things.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, absolutely. I want to be a lawyer, and I have to go to university to achieve that.
Yeah, you can't just.
So by all means, I'm willing to pay the price, right? You can't just become a lawyer just because you want to.
Right.
But that's not going to be true for a lot of people. For a lot of people, what they really want has nothing to do with university, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just hard to know that because a lot of people think that that is the only way to get to what you want.
Yeah, so really what we're trying to tell you is it's not the only way.
Yeah. So the last thing, you sort of touched on this, but I want to talk about it like explicitly, is this actually a requirement? So we sort of touched on it already, but is this going to university, is it a requirement for what you want to do? And I'm going to use the example of computer science because it's not my background, but it is something that I've heard many of my computer science friends rant about. Most of the computer science programs that I have been familiar with are tailored in a specific way for you to work in a very, very niche environment within computer science. So IT or development or website development or sort of software programming and coding and stuff like that. So if you want to do a particular thing, is your program actually a requirement to go and do it? So like that job that you want at the end of the day, does it actually say we only hire if you have a degree in computer science focused on IT, focused on web design, or focused on coding in these languages? Does it actually say that? If no, can you learn it on your own? Can you learn a little bit, enough on your own for you to get an entry-level job, and then move up as you go?
Yeah.
Do you need it? Do you need it for the entry-level job? Because you may think you like this job because you're interested in coding. Maybe you really like C++, or you really like Python or whatever. Growing up, it was fun to make little programs, tiny little programs that had an input-output of some kind. I don't think it's the best idea to go headfirst into a 4-year degree into something that you barely know anything about if you have the opportunity to go and work at a place that allows people at the entry level to start with that university degree. Because what that shows is that, hey, now I can actually experience this job firsthand, get paid doing it, and then see what the positions are if I want to move up and what degrees I actually need to get to that goal.
Sure, yeah. So let's just quickly summarize based on our own experience. So I'll go by my experience in the arts. You go by your experience in the sciences.
Sure.
What are the standard careers that require a degree? And then, people can go by process of elimination. If we didn't mention it, you'll have to research it on your own, but it may not actually require a degree.
Okay.
So I did history and English. The common career paths for people who study history, English, psychology, sociology, anything in the arts, like not the visual arts, the arts and humanities. Your typical career paths are you finish a bachelor's degree. There are some government policy jobs that you may be able to get that might require a degree, but they're few and far between. They're very competitive. A lot of people go on to do a master's degree and then a PhD. They want to become a professional academic. So you want to be writing papers in your field of study, engaging in academic discourse, and teaching students. Actually, your professors, like teaching their students, is a minuscule part of their job. Mostly their job is to think and write papers, at least at larger universities. Yeah. And then from there, if they don't want to be a professor, they want to become a teacher is really common. So you do your 1-year teaching program after your degree. At least in BC, there's some different ways to do it in other provinces in Canada, and I'm not actually sure how it works in the U.S. They want to go to law school, so 3 years of law school after your bachelor's degree. And other than that, there's some super niche, unique jobs that people manage to find, or they leverage their degree to get a job where they didn't actually necessarily need that degree, and that's fine. But as a standard sort of rule of thumb, if you're not really interested in one of those pathways, you should absolutely be doing some more research to decide whether or not going into the arts and humanities is actually going to be financially worth it for you, because you may be able to learn the same skills in a cheaper, more efficient way.
So yeah, absolutely. And then in the sciences, while there are many positions that you can get with just a bachelor's of science, depending on the field, typically most people, if they want to work in a lab setting, if they want to work in an entry-level research setting, that bachelor's degree is more than enough, so long as you have some sort of lab experience or research experience prior to getting the job. So that requires some research work or some lab courses within your degree, which you're pretty much guaranteed because you have to take those to pass the degree anyways.
Yeah.
Other than that, most of the people getting a bachelor's of science, at least in the field of biology that I came from, or kinesiology, are maybe more biology and less kinesiology, are using it as a precursor to their next degree. So there's professional programs such as pharmacy, medicine. Some people go in to be a veterinarian, and some people actually enter the science degree to get into nursing in the future, but they don't typically finish their science degree.
Right, they
And
transfer
then,
into the bachelor's of nursing.
yeah, and then there's obviously the professional academics. So furthering your degree by going into graduate school and becoming a researcher in a niche field that you're interested in. Essentially being a scientist.
Yeah.
So those are sort of like the main focuses. And you can't really do too much of that without going to school, because most of those are professional programs that require that for you to practice as that person, you need a license, and the only way to get the license is through the professional program. You can be a scientist, but scientists require tons of funding and tons of, equipment to be able to do their research. And usually, unless you have the funds in another way, which I'm not really sure how you would get it, you can't really get that type of funding and the credibility that comes from being in a research institute without basically having been in academia your whole adult life. It's really hard to be a prominent scientist without some sort of PhD or master's or an MD or something, and actually working full time at a research institute.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is, if all you have is a bachelor's degree, it's highly likely that there's somebody with a PhD who is just as smart as you are, but they have that much more specialized knowledge, and obviously they're going to be picking up the job that you might be looking for.
Exactly.
So as a general rule, then, the unfortunate reality, or, well, maybe unfortunate if you didn't think it through first, but just the reality if you did your research is, barring a few specific professional programs, some I'm sure in computer science, engineering, and a few others, your bachelor's degree is increasingly a ticket to some form of higher academic practice. That, it's a stepping stone. It's not the final project.
For most people, yeah.
For most people, yeah. And either that, or there are a lot of people out there who don't do their research. Maybe they go get a bachelor's degree and then they realize that they're not actually really interested in any of those higher academic pursuits, and they end up doing a job where their bachelor's degree is not actually required.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, that's when we're saying, try to figure out first whether or not that bachelor's degree is a requirement, just because, it's not free.
Yeah.
So you just might be able to get there in a little bit of a cheaper, little bit of a faster way.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
our video for today. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The more subscribers we get, the bigger our ego gets, and the more videos we'll make. Just kidding. It just shows that you guys care, and I mean, we're gonna make them regardless. But if you sub, then we're more motivated to make better content. You got anything else to say?
No, that's everything that's on my mind.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you next time, dude.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya.